Okay, hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Welcome to the Astro Awani Link webinar entitled Marketing Insider Borneo Edition with me, Dino Omar, and it gives me great pleasure to be your host for this morning. We are super excited to be talking about what we will be talking about today. If you strip down what we are trying to achieve today, it is simply to understand the exoticism and the wonderful opportunities available from the land of East Malaysia, Sabah and Sarawak. You know, if you're talking about Sabah and Sarawak, this is a land that is colorful, it's got wonderful opportunities, the people are warm and friendly, and they come in a myriad of shapes and sizes. And I'm talking about culturally here. We're talking about languages here. We're talking about understanding the psyche, because there's so much that we can gain from understanding the way the people of Sabah and Sarawak think, and especially how this is going to play well if you're looking at setting up or expanding your business from wherever. It could be you're expanding from West Malaysia, or if you could be expanding from either regions of Sabah or Sarawak, or even if you're coming from outside Malaysia itself. There's a lot of opportunities there to be gained. So we will be tackling all that later today. We're talking about a region that has a lot of movement. We're talking about a region where in 2019, as late as 2019, big companies of the world, such as IKEA, is thinking of going into the region, but also at the same time, a region where as early as February of this year, we've got companies exiting, such as Giant. So there's a lot of movement happening in Sabah and Sarawak. So we want to understand, what does it take for businesses to have a good and strong foothold within the region itself? I mean, we're talking about a region that has a population that makes up about 20% of the population of Malaysia. So there's a sizable market over there. So we want to help you understand not only what it takes to get into the minds of East Malaysians, but also, you know, what are the things that one should be looking out for in creating a good image and a good tonality for your business in the region of East Malaysia. So we've got all that happening later on today. But just to give you a little bit of a taste of what we'll be discussing today, check this video out called 8 Cultural Insights of East Malaysia. Take it away.
Hello and welcome to Malaysia's best kept secret, Sabah and Sarawak. In 2019, Sabah's population rose to 3.9 million and Sarawak 2.8 million, which makes up to 21% of Malaysia's total population. If you've met a Sarawakian or Sabahan before, I'm sure you've been confused to what race we are, and that's because there are over 70 sub-ethnicities in both states combined, but we identify as Sabahan or Sarawakian. Intercultural marriage is very common in these parts. Just take a look at some of my friends. Pretty good-looking bunch, eh? We are also known to be quite the life of the party, which comes natural because we have some of the biggest festivals in Malaysia, like the Rainforest World Music Festival, aka RWMF, and KK Jazz Festival, to name a few. Even some of Malaysia's famous talent are from East Malaysia, like Stacy, Andy Bernardi, Zizi Kirana, Click, Ziavi, and believe it or not, Henry Golding. Now to one of Sabah and Sarawak's best kept secret, Kaamatan and Gawai Festival, which is only celebrated in Sabah and Sarawak. Beauty pageants, parades, traditional dance performance take center stage during this month-long celebration. So, apa tunggu gi? Kami lai liao. Now, one of the common jokes about Sabah and Sarawak is that we still live in trees and use crocodile as transportation. I mean, how cool would that be, right? But sorry to disappoint you, because most homes in East Malaysia have more than one car at any given time, with a popular option being 4-wheel drives. I mean, why not, right? Since road tax are cheaper for all vehicles, which makes sense because all that money saved from the toll can be used to buying a new car. And I'm also here to set the record straight because I've been hearing a lot of confusion when it comes to who has the best food. Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? Sarawak lah! Why you ask? For starters, we have the Kuching Food Festival, which lasts for a month and has over 300 stalls and 300,000 visitors far and wide come to experience this. And do we have any seafood fans in the house? Well, Sabah has one of the freshest seafood in the world. Fun fact, East Malaysia is the only state that has our own e-wallet, Sabah and Sarawak Pay. Yep, we're innovative like that. We are also known to be quite the shopaholics because Sabah and Sarawak are the biggest markets for online shopping platforms like Zalora and Shopee. But if education is your priority, East Malaysia provides Australian education in Swinburne University and Curtin University, which attracts many international students. Now, Astro Radio is the only national radio operating in East Malaysia. As you can see, we have a strong presence within the community and we are also operating at almost 100% in terms of localization. We know what the people want and we give it to them. Our content are carefully curated and localized to fit the demographic in Sabah and Sarawak. Now, I've just shared with you everything you need to know about Sabah and Sarawak. The rest is up to you. You can get more details by contacting Mohideen at mohideen_kadir at astro.com.my or make your way to quake.com.my. Nothing is more expensive than a missed opportunity.
Well, there you have it, a little bit of an introduction to Sabah and Sarawak. And as you can see, there's a lot that you can gain from the region. And I'm talking about multiple industries and multiple facets of the community itself. This is a region that has a huge ethnic makeup. It is a region that offers a lot in terms of cuisine, in terms of culture, in terms of interest. And I believe it is safe for me to say that this is a region where a one-size-fits-all strategy may not quite be the best type of strategy out there. So we want to help you understand, okay, so if we're talking about the people near the northern tip of the island, closer to the mountaintops of Mount Kinabalu, all the way down to Kuching, and all the communities that basically coexist between these 2 points. What are the marketing messages that you should be looking out for and how you should be crafting your marketing message for that? So in order to help me kupas this topic a little bit more, I have with me 4 co-presenters that will be bringing 4 very different perspectives, for very different angles for you to understand how you can localize your product marketing and win over East Malaysians. So if I could just invite my fellow presenters to go ahead and turn your cameras as I introduce you. First up, we have Mr. Hafizuddin Nizamuddin, or Hafiz for short. He is the GM of Astro Radio East Malaysia. He's in charge of your favorite radio brands such as Era Sabah and Era Sarawak. So Hafiz, thank you so much for joining us. Next up, we also have Mr. Dexter Ye, who is the marketing manager of Daily Express, the independent newspaper of Sabah. Dexter, thank you so much for joining us. Next, we have Mr. Nizam Sani, who is the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer of Bank Rakyat. Now, the only fellow presenter who is coming to you from here in Semenanjung, where I am right now, because everybody else is joining us from East Malaysia. Nizam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And my last speaker today is Mr. Suhaimi Sulaiman, the CEO of the Sarawak Media Group, my Tok Guru, who needs no further introduction as he is a very well-known media practitioner here in the country. Cik Mi, thank you so much for joining us. Just to double check, just to make sure that everybody has got, yes, the camera's on. Hi guys, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so before we go any further, Cik Mi, there is a special video that you want to share with us. So if I could just ask my fellow colleagues to go ahead and roll this video and we can understand a little bit more about what Cik Mi does for us here in TVS.
Tidak akan ber-16 items kerana abak kandang menua persengkau kuanting ina kecuali yang mereka terutama di kawasan ujung ina的到来 pada kecaranya Indonesia and Malaysia. 现在其实我们可以看 meskipun reda dengan Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Warnailah hidupmu, ambilkanlah bakat baru. Sarawak pasti maju, menginspirasi duniamu.
Well, there you go. A little bit about TVS and the good work that Swami Sulaiman is doing over at the Sarawak Media Group. Okay, gentlemen, once again, it's great to have all of you here. So I'm going to start off our session today. And I know that everybody here is going to be bringing very, very different perspectives to what we are going to be talking about here, which is really to understand the people of Borneo, the people of Sabah and Sarawak. So I want to start off with a very, very generic question, which I believe is going to paint a picture for us where you are coming from when we are talking about East Malaysia. I would like to ask the panelists, what excites you the most when we're talking about or marketing to East Malaysians? So if I'm looking at my screen right now, the adjacent to me is Hafiz. So Hafiz, if you could take this question first, please go ahead.
The one thing that really excites me when it comes to this are actually the people. It's just so different. And like you said earlier on, you cannot do a one-size-fits-all approach. Okay, whether it's marketing or whether it's making friends with them, it's all so different. So for me, people is key in this.
Thank you, Hafiz. Dexter, over to you.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
Greetings from Sabah, the land below the wind. What excites me, basically, it's that the pandemic has been very troublesome and a lot of businesses have been closing. But where there is failure and bankruptcies, there's also opportunity, in which I believe that a lot of West Malaysian companies should really come into Sabah and see that there is plenty of opportunity here, especially since Sabahans cannot travel to KL anymore. A lot of rich Sabahans actually fly to KL to spend their money. And the pandemic forces West Malaysians to actually come back here to spend on their marketing campaigns and to engage with locals, since we have nowhere else to go.
Thank you. Yeah, I completely agree that the amount of, if I could use this word, opulence that I see in Sabah whenever I head over there, it's amazing. I remember about half a decade ago when I was still doing my motoring show, the Rolls-Royce Wraith was introduced in Malaysia. And the very first unit that I saw was on the streets of KK, and it left me dumbfounded. So I was thinking, this is a region that is super different, because it may seem like one thing, but then when you actually head over there and you understand the society a little bit more, especially if you're looking at property prices, we're talking about a different market altogether over here. What do you think about this, Nissan? What excites you the most about talking about East Malaysians?
Hey, Dino, thanks. I think, like what Hafiz said, there's not one size that fits all. I think localizing products or services from the bank point of view is something that we take on daily in our work. I think also being able to serve the unserved and underserved market as far as banking products are concerned is something that we look forward to. Also, the initiatives that we do to help people, the B40s in Sabah and Sarawak as well. So we'll be sharing some of the stuff that we've done to help people. I think the name Bank Rakyat, which is the bank for the people, we have set out to assist in as many ways as we can. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to you a bit later when we talk a little bit deeper and understand a little bit more about what you just said just now about an underserved segment of the market. So we want to understand, is there a difference between what you define as underserved in West Malaysia versus East Malaysia, and how do you address it? Last but definitely not least, Swami Sulaiman, Cik Mi, your thoughts, please, on what excites you the most about East Malaysia. And I know that you are somebody who takes culture in and embrace it. So I'm looking forward to hear what you have to say, Cik Mi.
Okay, in order for us to understand the market, let me just tell you what this is basically my experience after being in Kuching for the last 11 months. It's all about representation and if you are relatable. So who are these people who are actually watching TVS? But before that, I just want to share some numbers, because I guess the audience would want to know, hey, for a very young station, how many people are actually watching you? The number is actually good. In December, we have 2.4 unique viewers, and it grew to 5.5 in February. And as of last month, we got 6.7 million people watching us. Now, if the population of Sarawak is 2.9, this is as is this morning, then meaning it's just not being viewed in Sarawak, but also in many other parts of Peninsular Malaysia. Now, who are these people and why are they happy watching us? Let me just give you a little bit of background on who these people are, okay? This is based on, of course, it's not random sample, but based on our conversation and based on the feedback that we've received, yeah? Why they like us? Because their aspiration, let's understand the frame of reference of the audience. Number one, they want to be global players. Yeah, they want to be global players and they want their kids to be global players. So they want to be updated on international issues, and they want us to basically break the parts and make it relevant locally. They embrace the latest technology. Yeah, they're very hip here in Sarawak. They are into digital economy. Now with the lockdowns, everyone is buying online, so they embrace that. They want modern agriculture. They are very digital savvy. They care about the environment and they celebrate great ideas. And they look up to locals who have made it big internationally because they are global players. Yeah, they are global players. They love Pandalela Renong and of course Henry Golding. They celebrate Dewi Sresta, the great singer who won the talent competition at Miss World. And also they celebrate Francisca Luhong James. Now this is basically how people in Sarawak, our main audience, are actually looking at the brand. Now, if your brand can align with that brand, and I think this is good, where we can actually collaborate. And other than that, just one more thing before we go to the second round, it's also about respect. Yeah, respecting the traditions, the culture, and heritage. Now, recently during Gawai, and before that during Hari Raya, all our anchors for Hari Raya, they wore the keringkam, which is very, very Sarawakian. Yeah, and then never before this, as an anchor, I was told many times, yeah, by people who have been long in the industry, when you go to on television, you have to be very simple, you know, so that you don't distract the attention from the message that you're giving. But during Gawai, we wore our massive headgears with feathers and everything. And the kind of feedback that we've got is people love it because they say, this is differentiation, inspiring. So that is the brand. Now, if your brand, people who are watching this, this webinar, if your brand celebrates that, and I think we can actually collaborate. Wow, so long. Okay, take over. If I take over the show.
No, Jamie. Very good insight. So, you know, that's a great lead into what I want to talk about in the second part of here, which is really to understand your audience. And Jamie has mentioned something that is very, very relevant, which is representation. Now, I know that it is, whilst it is a given, but sometimes it may not be as apparent to people who are thinking of venturing into the area, to ensure that representation is there, to ensure that when we are speaking to Sabahans and Sarawakians, we are representing the very communities that and the very societies that we are trying to speak to. However, I see a small problem over here, because when we want to talk about representation, where in West Malaysia, perhaps, and this is not rightly done so as well, we oversimplify representation into the major groups over here, which is, you know, the Chinese, the Malays, the Indians, for example. Okay, and it is an oversimplified representation. But when we are considering the regions of Sabah and Sarawak, where the larger makeup of the community is made up of the different ethnicities, how do we ensure that representation, and this is about in the spirit of knowing your audience here, how do we ensure that in the spirit of representation, we are not missing anybody out? Because it is a huge geographical location that offers so many different things. So Chemi, perhaps you want to start off this conversation about understanding and knowing your audience first when you're talking about representation there. You're muted, Chemi.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, lupa. So when you talk about representation, it's always, okay, I can relate to this because before this, I was based in KL most of my life, okay? I only moved to Kuching in August last year. Now, what I learned, you know, sometimes people in Semenanjung, in the peninsula, they take things for granted. For example, when you watch television, yeah, when you watch television, you see different programs. Well, my parents, basically at home, my late father and mother, they spoke in they spoke English and also Malay in their Negeri Sembilan dialect. Yeah. So whenever somebody speaks a Negeri Sembilan dialect, for example, if Hatan, the entertainer, speaks with a Negeri Sembilan dialect, then I can actually relate to that. Yeah, the same thing with when Sabi Yunus, the comedian, spoke in the Kelantanese dialect. Yeah, now there is that attraction. Yeah, so what we did here, what we have been doing, in fact, in TVS, most of our programs, yeah, we have programs in Iban language, yeah, in Bidayu, yeah. And of course, it's very difficult for people in Semenanjung to understand. We provide subtitles because we always believe in you have to be true to your core audiences. It's the same thing like when we watch Korean movies. Why do you watch Korean movies? Because the story is set in Seoul, but it's relatable internationally. That's what we do. And I think you have to be honest to to the core of your audience. Now, if you as a brand would want to come in and push your products and services based on one size fits all that you mentioned earlier, I don't think it's going to work at all. Yeah, because people can relate to someone who looks like you, who sounds like you, and that is what we practice. For example, I give you an example. Some of the programs that we have repeated the programs more than 5 times. In fact, on our channel, it's called Rezeki Air. You know, I don't understand a single word that the person who told the story, but I read the subtitle and the story was just so compelling. And that's the feedback that we have got, not just from Sarawak, but from the viewers in the peninsula. They say, we love this. And for a TV station like us, that's how we have, that's our strategy to win. If I were to compete with the Media Prima Boys or the RTM with that formula, I will lose, yeah, because we are young and new. So if you come up with a differentiation and people celebrate that and you are true, you are inspiring in that sense, and all inspiring brands, yeah, I think hundreds of you watching at the moment, if your brand is inspiring and if your brand celebrates culture, celebrates heritage, and your frame of reference is basically international, we are a global player, I think we can actually work together. So this is how you send the message to the audience basically, and they align with that value. So it's about celebrating what we have, our differentiation. That's the most important.
Dexter, so very quickly, let's go straight to Dexter. So scenario in Sabah, probably a little bit more condensed because it's not as big as Sarawak, but then I would understand that, you know, the complexities are similar. What is your take on this?
Yes, well, when it comes to, you know, Sabah and Sarawak, actually, it's a huge difference, you know. East Malaysia is truly unique, you know, and that even when it comes to West and East Malaysia, actually Sabah and Sarawak itself is very different. You know, our ethnic tribes, for instance, you know, in Sarawak, there's the Iban, there's the Dayak, but for Sabah, there's the Kadazans and the Dusuns. It's totally different market, you know. So this is where West Malaysian companies really have to understand. It's that you cannot target East Malaysia as one. You should really engage with Sabah people to tell stories suitable for Sabah audience, and same for Sarawak as well, because of the cultural differences, you know, and our practices, even the types of food we eat is totally different. Ask anyone, you know, they will tell you that it's definitely not the same.
Okay, so Nizam, so you're coming from the other side of the coin over here. So we're talking about people who is creating the content for that, but then you are representing a company, a bank that, like you mentioned earlier, is the People's Bank. We're talking about a huge group of different people over here. And one thing that I want to bring forward here, and I guess we are already rolling in, you know, identifying sinkholes that are already prevalent over there. You see, one thing that we can probably all relate to is the fact that a lot of Malaysian companies like to sell on nostalgia. The good example would be if you look at Iklan Raya or, you know, Chinese New Year Iklan, or Merdeka. Merdeka would be a really good one. We really like to sell on nostalgia. But you see, the nostalgia signifiers within different communities have different memories that they play out from. So how does a bank like Bank Rakyat deal with this?
Okay, I think firstly, what we do have in East Malaysia is that I think we've got a distribution of branches at all the major towns and cities. So I think Sabah and Sarawak, we have 27 full branches, as well as 5 Raya Access, which are smaller branches. Now, what's key here is to note is that we are represented by locals as branch managers to represent, because like Cik Mi cakap tadi, we are looking at a very big language barrier, you know. So to have local branch managers and local staff addressing the customers in the local language would go far for one. I think that's number one. Number two, I think as far as the services that we have, looking at how we are distributed, where the branches are as well as the smaller branches are. Also, we've launched a new service in Sarawak, which we call our Bank Bergerak Arrow, for us to go and get ourselves into areas which, like I mentioned earlier, underserved areas. So language is one. Even when we do our radio ads, for example, it is all in local languages. I think Hafiz, can confirm that. But I think moving away slightly, talking about this representation thing, maybe we look at TV programs, how TV programs are done, especially the signature shows, AF, whether you talk about Raja Lawak. Auditions are always held in Sabah and Sarawak. I mean, there's 6 million plus viewers. I mean, population is about 6 million plus. Viewers probably 3 times that. So having contestants from Sabah and Sarawak, even though they're more costly, makes a lot more sense for people like Astro or TV3 who are doing all these signature shows. So having that representation goes a very, very long way, even for TV.
It's interesting that you mentioned, for example, a show like AF and all that. But we're talking about language difference here, right?
Yeah.
That is what you mentioned just now. It's probably easier if you're doing it from a localized scenario. But then if you're talking about mass media and creating a larger marketing message, it might be a little bit more difficult than that. So we want to understand, about that in a bit. But Hafiz, so you're a prime example of, being in the business of playing around with language because you represent Astro Radio in East Malaysia. You've got 3 brands over there. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've got Hits, you've got Era, and you've got My. Now, Hits Correct. And My, I will discount a little bit lah. Even though yes, there will be key differences, but then the medium of language is either in English or in Mandarin, where you will have the same kind of with different kind of pronunciation, maybe of English words and Mandarin words, but then generally speaking, it is the same language. But Era. We've got Era here in Semenanjung, you've got Era in Kuching, and you've got Era in Kota Kinabalu. The same product presented in 3 different languages. Take us through the psyche of why is there a need for us to have 3 different variants of the same product here?
Okay, like what Dexter said earlier on, right? East Malaysia versus West are totally different. But when you compare between Sabah and Sarawak, it's also different. You can't do a East Malaysia umbrella campaign. You have to treat Sabah and Sarawak differently. Hence, we have Era Sabah and we have Era Sarawak. Okay, because of the lingo, because of the slang, the twang that they use is different. The content that we showcase is also different. Okay, language-wise, some words that we use, okay, if you use it back in Semenanjung, habis lah kita punya license, right? For instance, your buttocks, your backside. Okay, back in Semenanjung, you call it punggung, right? Very, very soft, polite way of mentioning it. Here in Kuching, they call it buit. Yeah, and that's a decent language. That's a decent word. Your fathers and your uncles, aunties will use the same word. And back in Sabah, okay, your punggung or your burit in Sarawak is called pantat, and we are allowed to mention all that. Okay, and the reason why we have it so separate, right? Because like Era, okay, I want to go back to the representation, right? Assumption, okay, in terms of race and religion. Melayu, India, China, dan lain-lain. That's your typical thinking of how we make up to the entire population. But back in East Malaysia, here, okay, the Malays, the Muslims are not the majority. Yeah. They make up to only 40% of the entire population in Sabah and Sarawak. The rest, mainly Christians or Catholics. Okay, you go to the streets of Sabah, you will see more churches, you will see more chapels than you see the suraus and the mosques. Okay, and going back to our station, okay, what we do, we have to celebrate Christmas. We play Christmas songs on Era Sabah and Era Sarawak. We play Gawai Dayak songs for sure. because it's also a 2 days public holiday, bearing in mind. And us marketers back in Semenanjung, are we doing enough to acknowledge that or not? It is as big or even bigger than your Hari Raya Chinese New Year celebration. Yeah, I have to show this slide to you. Just one slide, 2 pictures I want to share with the audience. Hang on for a second. Okay, I'll go back later. Now it's missing pula. Later I'll show you.
Technology does that most of the time, kan?
Yeah. One.
In the meantime, I just want to remind the
okay, I found it.
I just want to remind our attendees, if you have any questions, you can go ahead. I can see that there are some questions coming in already via the Q&A function. So yes, you can do that, but you can also just go ahead and write your questions in the chat room and make sure that it is available to be viewed by panelists and attendees, so that, you know, in case we're talking and then one of the panelists sees a question and wants to answer that in the chat room, then that person can do so immediately. So please go ahead and bombard us with your questions. We want to help you understand what it takes to speak to East Malaysians. Okay, back to you, Hafiz, we're saying.
Okay, I'll share now. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. These are actual billboards in Sabah. One in Tamparuli, one I think somewhere on the way to Ranau. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dexter. You can confirm this, right? And these are the things that you can see in Sabah. Okay, a Merry Christmas, a cross, you know, mentioning Jesus. You want to do that in KL? You can't. Okay, and this is how different and what the things that we can do in this region. It's so amazing. And again, right, we take it for granted. There are a lot of rules that we can break here, you know, compared to back in West Malaysia. That's all. Thank you.
So, okay, so if you are talking about that, right? If you are talking about the fact that the memories are so different and what calls out to the communities and the societies are very different in nature, talking from one community to another. And we've already established that a one-size-fits-all strategy does not work in this case. So is there a place for mass media, such as Astro, such as TVS, such as Daily Express, in this case over here, where we cannot help but to think that, you know, when we are creating content for the mass, over here, like I mentioned, it's oversimplified, where we're talking about the 3 main race groups. But in Sabah and Sarawak, it is very, very, very different. So again, I want to go back to Suhaimi and also to Dexter. When we create content, when we create messages for the various groups of communities in Sabah and Sarawak, how do we ensure that, you know, yes, it's good that you're creating these messages for specific groups, but then the other groups do not feel left out? Subtitle is one quick solution. What else?
Okay, Dino, can I take your question?
Go on.
Okay, and I also want to answer to Encik Muhammad, Encik Amin. Encik Amin asked me, when you talk about the differentiation, you tell me, I know why the lingua franca in TVS is Bahasa Malaysia and not Bahasa Sarawak. Okay, let me tell you this. If you watch morning sampai malam, okay, you will see on our channel, we have news in Bahasa, we have news in Iban, in Mandarin, and also in English. And some of our programs, not all are in Bahasa Malaysia. Because you have to remember, earlier on I mentioned that our unique viewers, it's basically 6.7 million. Yeah, we have people viewing us in Sarawak. We also have people viewing us in Peninsular Malaysia. Now, to satisfy the different niche, the different markets, the different audience, we have programs where people can actually make appointments to see them on television, and also if they miss that, they can always go online. Okay, now contohnya, for example, we have Panggau Kitai in Iban, and our cooking show Nang Nyaman is basically in Bahasa Melayu Sarawak, and then Borak Tesiping is in Bahasa Melayu Sarawak, and of course we have Mandarin news, and even our telemovies, yeah, which is being produced, for example, Puasa Wacik-Wacik is in Melayu Sarawak. And also Sehari Sebelum Raya is in Melayu Sarawak. So we make sure that, okay, we look at the data that we have. Okay, how many people are Melayu Bumiputra Sarawak? So we cater to their needs. And how many people are actually viewing us from Semenanjung? Okay, how many percent, for example, one of the highest rated programs on TVS is basically programs in Iban. Yeah. So because we know that's a target market and they are very, very loyal. So they watch. So we present the programs in Iban. So, and we also have a program, a very interesting program called Kelakar Sarawak Johor by Fatah Burhanuddin. It's basically teaching people how to speak in the Melayu Sarawak. So we have all that. So it's not just in Bahasa. So we have all kinds because you need to appeal to the different market segments. For example, if you are of a certain race, if you speak a certain culture, a certain language, and I think the most that you can watch for television is 4 hours, unless you have nothing better to do in your life, you're a gone case. Yeah? So you watch for 4 hours. So within that 4 hours, you will have enough programs that would appeal to you in the language that you like. And then you can move on to other languages. So it's not just Bahasa Melayu standard. It's in all languages because we know the different audience because based on data that we have who are actually watching us. For example, there are certain programs that we conduct in English because 29% of our audience are actually PMEBs. And which is, I think, a good thing for us. So they need some cerebral content. So you market in English. So brands that can relate to that kind of audience can come in. So it's everything that you.
Oh my God! So Cik my question therefore now is, how do we choose which of the slices of community gets the prime time?
Okay, this is one thing good about when you're a 24/7 channel. Okay, to me, prime time is no longer between 6 or 7 o'clock until 11. No, especially now when you work from home. Okay, this is actually good. Okay, this is actually good for us. You have a captured audience there. So you basically, it's based on your scheduling. So you have, let's say a program in Iban, yeah? So you have right after the news, which is at 8:30, you have one at 11 o'clock the next day. So over 1 week, there'll be repeat slots that I wouldn't say repeat, but it's basically appointment for you to actually watch. And if you miss it, you can always go to online. So I think that's basically how it's no longer, don't talk about prime time. Prime time is 24/7, do you know? Come on.
So that means you create the prime time within those particular groups itself. Exactly. Nizam, you want to share something, Nizam? Go ahead, Nizam.
No, actually, I think you stole the question out of my mouth. Cik Mi has done programming both for TV in Semenanjung as well as now in Sarawak. Is there a particular difference as far as time belts are concerned with your fresh content? That's why I just wanted to ask that.
Okay, good question. You can never leave TV, even if you work. Well, he used to work for TV before. Now, when we trace the data, you can slot it at any time that you like. So you have to understand the audience. Okay, let's say the audience work 9 to 5, so they will not have access to television. But then again, there's also Astro on the go. You can, during your lunch break, you can go. So when you schedule, you have to schedule it intelligently. Yeah, you can actually reach the markets. Okay, if they're working, if the premiere is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the premiere may not have the best viewership. But then later on, when they go back home, they can actually watch it, or maybe on a weekend, they can do binge watching. So scheduling and putting a premiere for a product is very, very flexible, and it's accessible everywhere now. So you're in the online platform, so it's so easy. And if you miss everything, you can always go to tvstv.my. I'm plugging in tvstv.my. tvstv.my. Remember the brand, okay?
No worries. So that means, okay, so now going back to Hafiz and also Dexter. So, okay, looking at what Suhaimi has already explained earlier, right? Are we saying then that the consumption pattern, the consumer behavior is sort of like being forced to go back to back in the 80s when, if you remember before the advent of satellite television and cable TV in Malaysia, where everybody was watching RTM, and RTM as a platform needed to provide and to address different segments of our communities. So they are forced to ensure that the programming itself represents everybody. Is this the case that we're talking about here? Maybe Hafiz first, and then we can go to Dexter.
Okay. Well, apart from radio, we address all audiences, and we also have our digital platform that's a bit more targeted. Okay, depending on the campaigns, we can tailor make it, and we can also target it to different ethnicities. So I think what we're doing here is quite holistic in terms of how our messaging is for our audience and consumers.
Holistic. Okay, Dexter, what's your take on this?
Okay. I just want to touch upon just now what Joe mentioned about the churches and everything, how Sabah is different. One very good example here in KK, actually, there's a street where the mosque, the church, and a Buddhist temple is all side by side. So these are some of the only things you can only find in Sabah. You know, moving on, I think another good example is actually Bank Rakyat. Bank Rakyat approached us before the pandemic, actually, to reach out to the Kadazan audience. And we are the only paper in Sabah which has a Kadazan section for the Kadazan readers in Kadazan Dusun language. So I think this is a very good example as well of how to specifically target certain audiences. You know?
I'm okay, understood. Now let's go into hyper-localization, because I know Chetni and also Nizam was also mentioning just now about how you should be localizing your content and localizing your messages. My first question would be, okay, we understand that you are supposed to be localizing, but you're supposed to go even further and hyper-localize your message if you want to speak to specific groups of people. How does one do that? Nizam, can I start off with you?
I think exactly like what Dexter mentioned. When we look at our audience, our potential customers, I think what we have done over the last 4 or 5 years is to look at each and every segment, each and every ethnic differently. So if we're talking Kadazan tadi tu, we you know in Dexter's newspaper, we put it in certain segments. When we talk to customers on radio, on campaigns and stuff, even the language that we use on Era Sabah, Era Sarawak, is all tailor-made for the segments that we're looking at. I think, yeah, I mean, while we do all this, it's also very important to understand that these guys have a very, very strong loyalty, satu, towards the brands they use, you know. So that's why when we localize is how we touch people from the young of, you know, age groups. When we talk about age groups, all the way up, from kids from the time they're in school, when they go to university, as well as they start working. So that's why when we make our products, our services, and we have on-ground stuff previously, we look at these people separately. So for example, in certain schools in Sabah, we start sustainable farms so that these farms can actually come out there and assist the B40 kids. So each and every farm that we have done is localized to certain areas. Also, some of the assistance that we've come out with during Banjir, Sarawak Banjir, we assist in Sarawak. So that's why I cakap tadi, when we are seen as the bank for the people, it is also to tap on that loyalty. Somewhat, maybe you talk about hyper, you know, it is somewhat to that extent. So that's why we go further, not only looking at the language, we also look at how we help the community, because in return, that loyalty will benefit us.
Okay, faham. But my concern now is, and open to any of the panelists that are representing media houses, my concern now is, if you have to really hyper-localize your messaging to ensure that when you speak to a particular community, it is going to be talking to that community effectively. If you are going to do that, isn't that going to burst your advertising budget? Isn't that going to throw your marketing budget through the roof? Because you have to create so many different versions of your marketing message to ensure that nobody is being left out. How do we do this? Jamie, maybe you want to take this, Jamie?
Okay, but before that, I just want to answer one question. Encik Amin has a follow-up question. He mentioned that, you know, if you try to appease everyone, you know, then a bit of everything, then you'll be the jack of all trades, master of none. But I always believe in you can be the jack of all trades, master of all, because it's based on compelling content. Now, earlier on in your question, you mentioned that, how you would burst your advertising budget because you have to do
different versions,
customize, different versions. But I think you don't have to do every single thing. Just pick a little bit in there. Okay, and I have to, because sometimes people ask me this question, when you do hyperlocal, what exactly you mean by hyperlocal? I always believe in, yes, it's local, okay, people who look and sound like you, but the idea must be very global. I give you an example. Recently, we showed a telemovie, which is a very successful telemovie produced by a local production house called Puasa Oce Oce. Yeah. Now, inside the story, there's also a hawker who's actually very influenced by the Korean culture, where he says sarangi, with the blonde hair and all that. Yeah, Ardin Balarik, very famous personality here in Kuching. Now, what does that mean? Meaning, you don't have, it shouldn't be too in your face. Yeah, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So let's say in your 30 minutes commercial, you can speak the national language or whatever. But if you have 10 seconds of a little bit of that element, I can relate to it. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a different version for everything. So a little bit of tweaking in certain parts of that messaging. So I think we have to be very clever about this. And what you need now is a great writer who understands well, who looks at the data to craft the storyline. That's the most important thing for any advertisers to actually do that. And working together with an existing brand that people align with. Yeah.
Understand. Dexter. Hafiz,
just add on to Cik Mi's point, right? You don't have to be so ambitious and worried that you're going to burst your marketing budget. And first and foremost, the media in East Malaysia is not so expensive comparing to West Malaysia. Do not assume again, okay? We are only a fraction of what it costs back in KL.
I feel like I sebagai tuan rumah menjemput tetamu, tetapi sekarang ni tetamu menembak tuan rumah.
So in terms of cost, I don't think it should be a worry. And then in terms of execution, right, you don't have to use all the languages, the Dayak language, Iban lah, Bidayu. I think just by starting with using Bahasa Sarawak, using Bahasa Sabah will make a lot of difference already.
Huge difference already.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, right, you can always ask help from the media owners in East Malaysia. I tell you, we are far more flexible, far more helpful. We are more than willing to do this because we are so passionate about the market. We so want to educate the people that really take this market for granted and explain to them further about the kind of potential and the kind of mistakes that they've been doing all this while.
Faham? Understood. Dexter, you want to add to that? I want to go to Nizam after this, but different subjects. Hold on, Nizam. Dexter, you want to add on to what Suhaimi and Hafiz have said?
Okay. I have to agree with Hafiz that, of course, if you compare West Malaysian advertising budget, it's, of course, when you engage with media companies, East Malaysia is very much cheaper and you can even reach a better audience, So I don't think it's about bursting the advertising budget. I think that's a small issue. I think that companies should really start with one story and that will really connect to the rest. Because Sabahans, we are all friends with each other, different cultures. Malays, Kadazans, Chinese, we all meet together all the time to celebrate each other's festivals. Hari Raya, Chinese people come to Malay people's house, Kadazans, we celebrate all together our cultural festivals. So just sending one message is enough to reach all the different cultures and different races in Sabah. I mean, from our experience. Of course, so that the solution to all this is to basically work closely with market leaders, and East Malaysians. So like for us, for instance, customers will come to us and tell us, how do we tell this story? And we will give them the best way that is suitable to reach the local audience, Sabahans will always strongly support their local talents, their local media companies, who have been around all the time, Sabahans will always see the bigger picture. They won't support a company that is, I should put it this way. If they know this company is Sabah owned, they will always support, they always have this hashtag support local, and it works for us as well, because we have been doing this for 60 years. We know the right stories to tell for the locals, and that is why a lot of West Malaysian advertisers are still coming back to us. It's because we know what our readers like to read, basically, and why just one campaign can suit the entire market here. Actually,
I feel
you don't
that,
have to. Yeah,
I feel that the condensed version of what you're trying to say over here, and the same points being replicated by Hafiz and Suhaimi, is that step number one, speak to people who are operating in East Malaysia, because the solution is with them.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Nizam, I've got two questions for you, and they, I have to apologize because these are rather loaded questions, and I'm going to compound two questions into one. I've got a couple of interesting points over here. Number one, we were talking about localization over here. Now, localization versus globalization. I want to read something that was written and published in PwC in February of this year. Localization may not be with us to stay as countries focus on promoting economic growth, right, or in this case, regions. They will likely return to globalization as a path to prosperity. So, in other words, question number one would be, is it even worth looking into talking to the smaller groups of the market when you can cast a wider net and speak to the nation in general? This is basically, I'm digressing, going back a step and really asking the preliminary question last year, which is, do we want to even go into localization? Is it worth going in? Because, and here's compounded question number two, I want to bring out some figures over here. So if you're looking at the mean household consumption, and these are data from 2014, I know it's a little bit lambat, but then it's still quite relevant, where the national average is 3,578 ringgit per household. In Sabah and Sarawak, they score very, very low at 2,826 ringgit in Sarawak and 2,355, the lowest in Sabah in terms of mean household consumption. So for a company such as Bank Rakyat, is it even worth going into a market which may not offer, and I'm saying this with a huge ladle of salt over here, may not offer as much as Semenanjung? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, first things first, I think that earlier Hafiz and also Dexter did mention that you don't have to burst your budget to actually hit out at Sabah and Sarawak. I think for the bank, how we work is that we'd always depend on our media partners to help recommend to us, work on campaigns together and stuff like that. I haven't had a chance to work with Chitmi yet, but I'm sure it's going to come soon. But working with Hafiz and also Dexter, I think it's already there. And I agree, the costing is not as high as in Semenanjung. Now, going to your question, looking at localization versus globalization, and I think first we need to understand from where I sit, we are a Malaysian bank and we have operations throughout the country. Now, you can't expect to throw a net and just hope to get whatever you get, For us, I think we look at campaigns, we look at how we do things differently across. Satu, you have your major campaigns which hit out throughout the country. But secondly, we have pockets of smaller campaigns going out to all these local states, whether you call it states, whether it's towns or even cities. Also Sabah Sarawak, how we look at the different ethnics, we look at them differently in terms of how we market. So that's why I go back to how we are represented at the states. In Sabah and Sarawak, we have local people talking to the same language as the local people over there, which first things first gets you already into their good books when you speak the same language. Sending someone from Semenanjung to speak there is going to be slightly more difficult. So that's one. I think how we also look at our audiences. We cater campaigns, we cater promotions strictly towards the areas. So for example, kalau we look at how our CSR campaign was previously on autistic kids, we target different autistic kids and we do different things based on needs for that one. Of course, you look at it and you say, oh, you guys probably going to burst your marketing budget. But no, I think with the partners that we have, we've been able to do that over the longest period of time. Now, your second question goes, and when we talk about household income, right? Now, this is where we go back to the unserved and underserved. Are we saying that these two states with very low household income, do we not look at them? We can't say that, right? So that's why I think being the bank of the people, we take a little bit more initiative to meet the needs and wants of people outside of Semenanjung, Sabah, Sarawak, especially the ones young, don't have any banking facilities, no banks nearby. That's why we have our Bank Bergerak going into these villages and assisting them in opening account, whether it's financing, blah, blah, blah. For SMEs, we also have, we've just set up SME centers, also Sabah and Sarawak, to cater for SMEs in Sabah and Sarawak. Because if you say, the income's low, the spending power is not as much as in Semenanjung, do we not look at them? As like I said, bank for the people, bank like that, we need to be there, and we need to be able to give them access to banking, to funds, to whatever banking products out there.
Right. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got, my dear panelists, we've got a lot of questions that are coming in. I can see in the chat room, and then also there were a couple of questions that are sent specifically for panelists. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try and get one of this. So the first one is coming from Mahin. Would like to know how much people are open to technology and using it for day-to-day transaction. For example, booking, e-hailing, purchasing groceries, and so on. I think this is really, really interesting because we are talking about two regions where you have Sarawak Pay and Sabah Pay. We don't even have that here in Semenanjung. So they are very open to technology. Correct me if I'm wrong, panelists. Maybe Dexter can take for Sabah and Hafiz can take for Sarawak.
Okay, I'll answer this question first. Prior to pandemic, my last visit to KL was in August last year. Went to one of the very, very popular mall in KL, Jalan Bukit Bintang, went downstairs to the food court and wanted to have lunch. Yeah, I was so shocked, right? I was so surprised, right? There's no e-wallet there. Okay, and why I say that, because I am so accustomed to using e-wallets in Sarawak and Sabah. Wherever you go, stalls, shopping malls, grocery, even to the market. You go pasar beli ikan, beli sayur, you can already use your e-wallet. Okay, in Sarawak specifically, right? Sarawak Pay is widely used. Yeah, widely, even Boost for that matter. The penetration in East Malaysia is higher than West Malaysia. I can confirm that. So in terms of usage of technology from the people here in East Malaysia, I have zero doubts. Okay, perhaps they are probably more equipped. Okay, because I'll give you an example. There are certain items that is not so accessible here. Okay, in terms of shopping, what do? They go online and shop. They probably shop more than the people in East Malaysia. So you don't have to worry. They don't live on trees and kena panjat pokok ke apa baru nak dapat line. No. It doesn't happen that way. Yeah.
Dexter, you want to take on for Sabah?
Okay. Well, yes. I mean, with Sabah Pay, Sarawak Pay, of course, we can see that East Malaysians and technology, actually, it is really growing. People are really starting to learn how to adapt especially with the pandemic. It forces everyone to change, from businesses to everyday lifestyles. Everyone is turning into the web, which is why, like the press, for example, a lot of it, this is our highest ever readership ever, and this comes in hand with, of course, how people spend and everything. Like Shopee is one of our clients also, and we help them to reach the locals, to tell them that, because now online shopping is super competitive, as you all know. And Shopee understands this, and which is why they engage with us to make sure that we really reach the audience. And they understand that Sabahans have a huge spending power, which is why they are spending quite a lot on campaigns to reach this audience.
Understood. Okay, so you've mentioned Shopee. So that is still an entity that is operating on a on a blanket scale. But the next question is related to that. It's coming from Dr. Venkateswaran Balakrishnan. Is there any special, or rather, are there any special online platforms which we can market our products in Sabah and Sarawak particularly? Perhaps, do we have any? Perhaps Dexter can take this first, and then maybe Nizam, if you have any insights on this, you could share with us.
Okay, so I'll start. Of course, we clients can of course approach us as well. I mean, yeah, we're doing the press, but our online presence is growing very much. You know, our readership is the highest it's ever been, record highs. You know, and our paper, our news website, is actually the most read website in Sabah. So this is something that KL clients do know, and of course that's why they're still engaging us to tell web stories, to web banners, you know, and videos, of course, and social media. This is a new trend, you know, and of course we are growing rapidly as well in this area. And the big difference is that most of our audience is Sabahans, actually, you know, from different cultures and different races as well.
Thank you. Nizam, you wanna add on to that?
Yeah, so I think, when we talk about technology in Sabah and Sarawak, I think it's something that that is growing and has also reached a stage where, you know, it's the numbers that are showing really, really good. Back in 2019, Bank Rakyat, we launched a project called PINK, Project Integrity Kewangan Masjid. And this is to enable for the mosque to be able to manage their finances better, also for people to donate, you know, through Sarawak Pay. And I think the numbers over the last 2 years has seen tremendous growth, you know. So I think on this note, I think technology in Sabah and Sarawak is on the way up. You know, it's showing very good numbers, and we are trying to do more projects like this with Sabah as well.
Thank you, Nizam. Next question, I think this one is definitely for Cik Mi. Can I know the effectiveness, this was sent anonymously, can I know the effectiveness of TV in marketing nowadays? Most people tend to not watch TV. Cik Mi.
Okay, I disagree with the statement, because right now, you can actually look at the viewership numbers. We have captive audience. What else do you do in your house when you're under MCO? Yeah, people are actually watching TV. So that's
now it's the best time, you say.
Yes,
now it's the best time.
That's the best time. Please come in now. And I think some of the comments, for example, talking about, is there a ready-made platform? Is everything ready? If we go, what's the guarantee that we will not fail? Okay, I am a firm believer of first mover advantage. You go first before the clutter sets in, you know. And why I'm very gung-ho about Sarawak is the next capital of Indonesia will be in Kalimantan, people. That is just the neighbor. So you have to start somewhere. You grow the market together with us. So it is not about always, you know, something is ready, therefore I go, you know. So you build together, because when you look at the numbers are growing very, very fast. Yeah, viewership, engagement numbers, yeah, be it television, be it online. But nowadays, we don't see it as whether it's television or whether it's online, whether it's print. It's basically how the content moves from one platform to another. It's back to that compelling content, yeah. Some content will do well on whatever platform, so be it on television, be it on online, because I give an example. This one, I had to give it to people in Sabah, okay? We have this program called TV Stars, okay? TV Stars, so it's basically singing competition where we have, it's done online because we can't get people in one place. So we have contestants from the Philippines, from Indonesia, from Peninsular Malaysia, from Sarawak, of course, and from Sabah. And guess what? I think there's something right about people in Sabah. So there's this guy, his name is Fanzi Ruji, okay? And when Fanzi sings, boom, suddenly we call it, oh, the Avakas is coming. So they're actually going in and supporting Fanzi. So what does that mean? That means that if that person is seen as a local hero, use him or her for your advertising list. And actually it worked for us. Suddenly, so we were trying to say, should we boost this content on Facebook? And suddenly it came from Sabah, you know, and we were trying to go to the Indonesian market, because Indonesia has 260 million audience. but then it came from Sabah. So this is how it works. Yeah.
Jamie,
yeah.
Jamie, I nak compound juga another question because another person has asked this. Lau Wee Ming has said a lot of marketers question the effectiveness of TV and newspaper hard copy because most of the people now move on to social media. I get it. Social media is the current thing, but you are saying that there is a captive audience. From your perspective, Chetni, how do we create an amalgamized strategy, a hybrid strategy between
Wonderful. Wow, Dino, you're very clever. It is not about whether you are TV or you are radio or you're social media or you're print. Today, the conversation is seamless. You watch me on TV, I give an example. I have a program on television, 30 minutes. Because of your attention span, you can only maybe focus about 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Yeah. So we will milk some of the content. In case you miss it, you can have this 2-minute. So we put that on TV and we put it online and we engage in that conversation. So for us, sooner or later, we can actually monetize that. So brands can actually come in because people just want to hear this. They don't want to see the 30 minutes. So it is no longer advertising just on one platform. It's basically content-based. How you make that content move from TV to online to whatever it is. So that's how things move today. You don't silo it anymore. So that is why, for example, you see print. Why is the print media going online and then they are going video? Because that's the way to do. That's how you should do it because your audience want to be represented. The brands that will be paying for their brands to appear on your platform wants to be known here, 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 and here. So it's an amalgamation, like you mentioned. So in the whatever that we propose to you, you get this, you get this, you get this, you get this, and then it's like a la carte. Okay, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. It's like that. It's like going to a restaurant. Yeah.
No, I think also people, and this is I'd like to contribute this. People also forget that different slices of the market resides on different platforms. So for example, Dexter, correct me if I'm wrong, but then from what I understand, the newspaper audience, especially if you're talking about the hard copy audience over here, they still command a very strong attention from the community, the more affluent community, the older, more money community. For example, correct me if I'm wrong over there. So if you are going into the market with a product that requires a higher investment, such as property or luxury products, luxury items, there is still some traction to be gained from advertising on newspapers, be it online and hard copy. What do you think?
Yes, actually, you are right. Even with I think that's one of the good things about the pandemic, that there's a lot of fake news and fake SOPs, fake announcements spread online and on social media. Even with government logos, these people, I have no idea why they want to go into all that trouble for what. And that actually helps our paper. People read it, because we verify all the SOPs first, with government officials, and even on our online platforms, we make sure that, is this believable? We have to really take the time to check with officials, so that we're not spreading fake news, and this is what our clients understand as well. And which many West Malaysian papers who have came here and tried to penetrate the market have actually failed and stopped distribution already. I mean, because they don't understand the local audience, they don't contribute to local community development. It's different from what applies in West does not necessarily apply here.
Understood. True. Okay, so we've only got about 1 minute left. We've actually gone over by 10 minutes. There are so many questions that were coming in. But before we wrap up, I just want to flash two last things over here. One is actually a comment from Lisa Sabrina Ambrose. For the very first time, Era and Hit Sabah represented Keamatan as official media and broadcast partner in a big way this year. I know, because for the first time I could actually watch Unduk Ngadau on Hit's social media, and I could watch it from here and here. It was amazing. Mix FM National Radio played the Dusun Language Keamatan theme song for the very first time. This is a huge breakthrough for all. Well done, Astro. So I just wanted to share, this is a feel-good factor that, things are moving in the right direction. So kudos to Hafiz and team over there. But last but definitely not least over here, this is a quick fire question for all the panelists. To all panelists, I love this question. What is the best method to catch the attention of East Malaysian consumers quickly So this is the first thing that you should be doing if you are a business owner. It doesn't matter if you're a big business owner or you are an SME entrepreneur. What is the number one thing that you need to do quickly? Quick fire, go. We start with Hafiz, and then we go with Dexter, then Cik Mi, and definitely ultimately Nizam lah, because Nizam is the client over here, right? So we want to go there. So Hafiz, go for it.
I don't know how quick is quick lah, right? But I think the key word here is relationship. Okay, it's like you want to impress your girlfriend, or maybe like even being married lah, right? Kena bersabar. You need to persevere. You need to, sometimes you need to agree to disagree, right? So when you have that relationship, you build your credibility, you build your trust with your consumers and your audience. I think a quick win is you need to have that relationship and you need to respect the people. Okay, you need to acknowledge them. Then you have it.
I feel that dalam Hafiz punya very well-crafted business proposition answer ni, there is also truth in his personal life, because I understand you're probably married to a local, right? And I'm pretty sure you have your blue passport with you somewhere.
Yes, I do. Actually, I brought it with me, see?
There you go. So congratulations on that. Okay, thank you, Hafiz. Dexter, see you. Quick win.
Okay, I think just to make this very quickly, you really have to push and engage with local people, the local audience, to build this sort of relationship with us. So that way people really trust your brand and your products, Like for our paper, for instance, if you ask any of the locals, anyone who advertise on our paper, they know that, oh, actually Daily Express is endorsing this company, It is sort of like a trademark, that Daily Express believes in this company, that what they are doing is really beneficial and the right way for the locals, because we are actually very expensive in East Malaysian market, but clients from KL still come in with us, because they know that it's worth to invest with us because that trademark issue, and locals through our newspaper, through our online platforms, when they see the KL or, West Malaysian companies with us, we telling their stories, they believe that we have done our homework on them, and they're really serious on pushing into the Sabah market to touch and engage with the locals.
Thank you, Dexter. Jamie, your quick win?
Okay, my quick win will be, now we are all under MCO. You have a captured audience at home. Please be the first mover advantage. Yeah, avoid the clutter. You go in now, and then you go for representation and be relatable. Next, we are relevant. Yeah, we are real and reach for the skies. This is basically what we want, and we are an inspiring brand. All brands are inspiring, so you can actually work together with us, and we work based on respect. That's very, very fast, because now it's the captured audience time, because they're all at home waiting for you to just get your message to them. That's it.
Thank you, Cik Mi. And Nizam, you're the client over here, so we really want to hear what was your quick win when you entered your marketing messages into the Sabah Sarawak market. You're muted, Nizam, by the way.
Sorry. Okay, so I think what Hafiz mentioned is really quite there. Relationship, it's key for us. I mean, of course, we got to send out messages. We got to launch new products. Sometimes it's faster than we even imagine. I think the relationship that the bank has with our media partners, for example, radio, where we talk about the social media partners, the news outlets, it's radio and social media that really works for us really, really quickly. Quick win wise, I think the relationship that we have with Astro Radio, for example, in Sabah and Sarawak, we're just able to pick up the phone and run some messages. Vice versa, Astro Radio over there as well, new campaigns, they will just call us and share with us ideas and such. So I think for us, from client point of view, spot on relationship is key for us.
Fantastic, Nizam, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we wrap up right now, I understand that, as a thank you to our wonderful attendees today that asked a lot of questions, and you've got so many questions still coming in. So I apologize, we cannot take all the questions now, but you can reach out to the panelists with your questions if you want to. Cik Mi dah tunjuk dah dekat situ, sohaimi@smg.my. But if you go ahead, if the panelists can go ahead and type your email address in the chat box, then everybody can ask the questions that they have. But before we go, Hafiz, to say thank you, we have a special package that you've put together for our attendees today, right? So you want to share with us? There we go. You're muted, by the way, Hafiz, yeah?
Right. Just a quick one. We are doing a bundle package with TVS, okay? A basic talk show segment sponsorship. Together with, you can pick either one of our stations, Era, My, or Hits, for an influencer live review package. Combine TVS and this is just one package. Of course, we have loads and loads of packages that we have out there. But for this introduction, we have it at 6,900 ringgit. Yeah, and bearing in mind, like our product Era, My, and Hits, we also have very, very successful, strong social media platforms, all spearheaded by the local team. I am the only West Malaysian, but now I'm also half East Malaysian lah. Okay, our local announcers are all celebrities. They have strong followings. Our stations are all very, very strong, very, very well received within the local Sabah and Sarawak. Reach out to us. Okay, we'll be able to tailor-make your campaign better. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Hafiz. Okay, that's it. That's all the time
Dexter,
that we have. We've actually
I think Dexter has a package as well.
Oh, I see. Yeah, Dexter. Okay,
yeah.
Over to you now then, Dexter. I thought it was rolled into one. Oh, I didn't see that there. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Just 1 second.
So that's Sarawak cow-teamed by Hafiz over there and Sabah, but now we've got Daily Express over here. Go for it.
Okay, can you all see the slide? Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we can.
Okay, so basically to put very quickly, why you should engage with Sabah media, just like Daily Express, is because, and I have here a special package. Of course, this is a value of more than 20,000, 30,000 ringgit. And we have countless packages. Of course, we always tailor-made for certain clients, on the certain story that you wish to tell. And this is just one example. We package newspaper, website advertisements, and stories, web and print story for the locals. This example, as you can see here, we did for our client, Ibis KLCC, which Sabahans who fly to KL actually look for a place to stay. And we help to tell this story, to let the locals know that if you're going to KL for quarantine, you can come to this hotel. It's just one of the many case studies that we do.
I see. Well, I'm loving the price that I can see over there. It's very true what you guys mentioned earlier that, it is very cost effective. In fact, it costs, from the packages I can see, it even costs a lot less compared to some celebrity influencers over here in Semenanjung. So yeah, definitely bang for the buck over here. Okay. To my wonderful panelists, thank you so much. Thank you to Hafiz, thank you to Nizam, thank you to Dexter, and definitely thank you to Cik Shami Sulaiman for joining us today. I hope you guys have gained as much as I have. It is a wonderful session that we just had. And in case you missed it and you want to refer back to this, we will be putting this session back up on link.astromoney.com playback. Just give us a couple of hours to tidy things up, and we'll put it up, and you can always refer back to that. If you have further questions, you can go ahead and ask the panelists. I'm sure they've already put their email addresses in the chat box, so you can go ahead and email them your questions. If you enjoyed this session, please go ahead right after this session. The moment we end the event, there is going to be a short survey that asks you to rate us. Do rate us 5 stars if you enjoyed this session, because your ratings means it's fuel for us to do even more sessions such as this. And also reach out to us and tell us what you want to talk about, what you want to listen to, and we will go ahead and arrange these sessions specifically for you right here at Astro Awani Link. My name is Zin Omar. Thank you once again to all my panelists, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you, Chetni. Thank you, Nizam. Thank you, Dexter, and thank you, Hafiz. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.